Welcome everyone to this week's webinar, Stopping the Violence. And we're very happy to be here and to continue to share with you our hopes, our strengths that we have encountered by hosting this webinar and Stopping the Violence. Today, we have a special speaker. He's not a stranger to anyone, to us at all. He's been on before. But also, I would like him to come back, and he's actually was recording of one of his previous presentations, because I thought that this particular presentation is indicative of what really is going on out there and all of the great soldiers who are out there trying to make the difference and have made differences in communities that we call at-risk communities, dealing with what we call at-risk young people. So today we have our friend who happens to be one of our what we call it team members. What is it, Dr. Madeline? Our core members of the Stopping the Violence Best Task Force, and he's helping us shape the next conference. And his name is, and I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Brad Carson. So after we hear him speak, we're going to have a little open dialogue. Look forward to your response and what you can bring to the table or glean from his message. So welcome again to this platform, and let us listen to Brad Carson's presentation.
So, but we're grateful that you're here. We have a wonderful speaker. So I just want to just share with you a little bit of his background, and we're happy he was in Las Vegas with some wonderful people, David Reed and Leslie Rigney, and they said, oh, this guy is incredible. Please invite him. So it is our pleasure to invite Brad Carson. And Brad Carson is a community change agent and urban futuristic, known for his transformative work in creating safer communities with a mission to break the cycle of repeat criminal offenders and intergenerational gang violence. That's huge. He focused on addressing spiritual, amen, social and economic causes through job opportunities and education. Brad coordinates efforts in gang truth peacemakers, community-based organization, faith-based groups, and social service agencies to ensure the job readiness of local individuals, aiming to provide them with meaningful employment. I want to invite him, and also I realize that sometimes when I come on, I assume everybody knows me, but my name is Reverend Zachary Oliver. I am the Vice President of UPF, who is the central sponsor of this webinar. And also I have an organization and I'm the president of. The Reverend Reed is also the vice president. It's called the Moral Black Leadership. And many times the Moral Black Leadership is how do we begin to educate our young people in order to, as a preventive program to their leadership roles and decreasing any criminal activities. But without any further ado, I want to thank Brad Carson for coming on, and we would love to hear from him. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Zachary, and thank you, Reverend Reed, and all the sisters and brothers out there. Thanks for having me.
Welcome. It's a pleasure. So we look forward to hearing from you. We've heard great things about you, and we know you're going to be one of the champions who's going to share with us your hopes and strength, and how God, since you talked about spirituality, how God has been working through you to help curb those things that are plaguing our communities and our society. Welcome.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let me you read my bio. Let me give you a little bit of background. I'm 64 years of age, born and raised here in Los Angeles. I've been married for 37 years. I have three grown-up children. They like to tell me what to do now. and I've been a probation officer for LA County probation officer on the adult supervision side of probation, dealing with what we call HROs, high risk repeat criminal offenders, mostly gang members, for 35 years. I've been blessed for all 35 years from day one to be in an environment with the probation department that deals with first of its kind mostly, but definitely proof of concept, prototype model, pilot programs for 35 years straight. And what we have discovered is what works. And what works is that essentially jobs create peace. But in order to have jobs to create peace, you have to have a secure environment of law and order, safety and security from a Maslow's hierarchy needs point of view. And so in that sense, I'm gonna start this off by saying that I am a peacemaker. My definition of a peacemaker is when this gang is shooting at this gang and the bullets are flying in between. A peacemaker gets in between those bullets and make the bullets stop flying. So that's my definition of a peacemaker. And with that said, I would like to lay the foundation. If we can indulge me for the first 4 minutes of watching this video called, I don't even know what it's called. Brad Carson deals with LA gangs, I think. Please indulge me for 4 minutes and let's watch this video.
Gang violence that took on the tenor of a race war has come to a sudden end. Chris Blatchford has an exclusive inside look at how it happened.
Moms sit and talk in Oakwood Park. Their kids play nearby. A man walks with his daughter. Teenagers have a friendly game of softball. Normal summer activity. But in this Venice neighborhood, a small miracle.
Like 2 months ago, you didn't know if you was going to make it to even see the next day if you stepped out your door.
Last January, Oakwood Park was empty. This neighborhood filled with fear. Many residents wouldn't even leave their houses.
You were scared to even walk down the streets. You couldn't walk nowhere without looking back, thinking someone was going to come down the street with guns or something.
Oakwood and surrounding Venice was a battleground. Since last September, at least 70 people shot, 20 killed. A drug dispute between the Latino V-13s and the Black Shoreline Crips escalated into a race war. Most of the victims weren't even gang members.
It didn't make no sense. I don't see why they had to do all that over nothing.
Neither did LAPD, which beefed up patrols all over Venice. The district attorney's office was about to implement an abatement program to clear the streets of gang members.
We care about everybody who has to live in a world that is filled with all kinds of struggle.
Politicians postured, "Stop the violence! And community members protested.
But the two rival gangs were not communicating with each other, and that was a vital process that needed to take place.
So probation officer Brad Carson, believing this violence could only be stopped by the gang members themselves, spent hours talking to both sides about a truce.
I found that both sides really wanted it. They just didn't know how to go about it. They didn't want to make the first step towards that.
So Carson and fellow probation officer James Gallipo had an idea. They brought a handful of influential gang members here to the probation department. Then the gangsters by themselves met face to face in this parking lot for more than an hour.
I would say the biggest thing is that they decided themselves not to continue in this basically tit-for-tat violence that was perpetuated, and they just decided to stop.
Now there has not been a shooting in Oakwood for more than 6 weeks. Not since a bloody June 10th when 6 people were shot in 3 separate attacks. LAPD Gang Unit Lieutenant John Weaver confirms it.
Violent crime has gone down. In fact, all crime in Oakwood has gone down, and there has not been any shooting since then.
People in the Oakwood section of Venice feel free to go outside again. Even a black and Latino gang member can be seen talking to one another. Here, there is a collective sigh of relief.
We got all this together.
There is also talk here of the two gangs coming together to work on creating job opportunities and starting up a youth center.
But probation officer Carson still describes this as an unofficial truce. He explains there is still a healing process that has to take place. But each day that goes by is another day of peace. Chris Blatchford, Fox 11 News.
America is on the cusp.
So that's how we, let me give you a little bit more background. I have a 2013 year bio that's on permanent file with the LA County Board of Supervisors for what works presentations. And really that's what we're following right now, starting off with the peacemakers. So I was assigned to Venice Oakwood as a community-based probation officer. That means Venice Oakwood is a 1.1 square mile area, population 10,000, has about 15 three-story subsidized apartment buildings, Section 8, like a housing project basically, but not quite, within that 1.1 square mile area. And that's where the V13s, which is Venice Trace, mostly Mexican gang, and Venice Shoreline Crips, mostly a black gang. That's where they reside. And then ultimately what happened was that in 1992, the Crips and Bloods, particularly out of Jordan Downs, Imperial Courts, and Nickerson Gardens housing project in Watts, came together and did a gang truce. That gang truce, with the help of 1988-89, the famous Jim Brown, the late great Jim Brown, the famous football player, actor, and community activist. Around 88-89, he started bringing Crips and Bloods to his house, and basically set up what's called the American Life Skills Program. I was invited to his house, so I not only got to know my own Venice Shoreline Crips, but I also got to know all the Crips and Bloods in Los Angeles, basically. And so in 1992, through that gang truce, for lack of a better term, the La Raza got together and got the Mexican gangs to have a truce. And by the end of, that was in 93, and by the end of 1993, they had a huge gang war in Venice Oakwood that I was the community-based probation officer of. To put that in further context, Oakwood is really only 8 blocks this way and 8 blocks that way. And so with that said, I knew everybody in Venice Oakwood. I was assigned there in 1989, and then I left Venice in January 2000. So everybody that was an adult, active, formal felony probationer, I was their probation officer. So in 1993, that's when that gang war that you just saw, that 4 minutes of, happened between the B-13s and the Venice Shoreline Crips, but then it became racialized so that anyone black and anyone brown can get killed at any time, or shot and killed at any time. And it was also essentially a green light so that the anybody, other gangs could come in and shoot people from other areas into the Venice Oakwood area. So that's why it blew up. So since I knew everybody, I brokered and mediated that gang truce of what you have seen. Since that time, that was in 1994, the most influential people from both sides, there was 4 of them, basically wanted 4 things. They wanted one, they wanted the essentially a career job opportunity. I'm going to define that in a minute. They wanted more recreational activities for their kids, particularly at the park. They wanted to run a youth family center, basically, themselves, and they wanted less police brutality. So those are the 4 demands that they had for peace, and so I helped them organize for that. 3 years later, I helped organize the Gang Truce Peacemakers throughout the county, because the LA County Times sent out did an article shortly after I did the Gang Truce in Venice Oakwood in 1994, and it identified all these gang truces throughout LA County, and it identified who they were. And so I just called them up, and we started having a meeting. We met for a year and a half, and the Gang Truce Peacemakers basically said the same thing, that they needed career opportunity jobs to actually trade for gang truces, because they're sick and tired of saying peace, peace, peace without something tangible in their hand to give their constituents. And so we met for a year and a half and designed the Jobs Create Peace Plan, a 36-page plan in writing. And let's play that next video so we can take a look at it. This is 3 years after the gang truce that you just saw.
The Jobs Create Peace Coalition is an unincorporated association formerly known as the Ad Hoc Committee to Enforce Proposition A. Jobs Create Peace has been the driving force for policy changes and implementation for youth employment on Proposition A projects for both the city and county of Los Angeles. On June 26, 1997, the County Board of Supervisors held a special session regarding youth employment on Proposition A projects. The Ad Hoc Committee to Enforce Proposition A, acting as a catalyst, brought together 7 known gang truce peacemakers from all 5 supervisory county districts, along with 200 gang leaders from 75 different African American and Latino gang sets, supported by 50 nonprofit community-based organizations and a major private development project, Playa Vista.
200 Los Angeles gang members gathered today for a common goal: employment. Channel 5 News reporter Warren Wilson has details from downtown L.A.
It was a bizarre scene. Some 200 gang members, heads bowed, asking for divine intervention.
I pray over every barrio, every young man, Father God. I pray over their families, Lord. Father, that your spirit of peace would continue to prevail.
They are at risk of ending up in prison, or worse, being killed. They joined forces, 50 different gangs, to form the Committee to Enforce Proposition A. That was the $1.6 billion Safe Neighborhood and Parks Act passed by voters right after the 1992 riots. Millions were designated for youth jobs. Despite training programs, only a few young people have claimed salaries of $68,000 from the $200 million already paid to contractors. That's the rub for gang members. So, county supervisors tightened the noose by issuing new orders to cities.
Who approves that 50% of all maintenance funds would be used for at-risk youth?
Some of the 80 cities in the county don't want to disrupt their plans and their projects.
If we can't go forward with some of our projects because of this requirement, I think the youth in our community are going to lose double.
Many of the proposed local projects have very tight or multiple funding sources, and the 10% loss of funds would be the straw that breaks the camel's back.
The mayors and other city representatives registered their opposition to the proposal and then left. Only a couple stayed and listened to what was behind this large turnout of at-risk youth. A prosecutor and probation officer were among the speakers.
The employment of at-risk youth and the improvement of the parks has been 0%. 0%. That's countywide. There's 88 cities in the county that has an average of 0%.
If you really look at these men, what they're saying to you is, we want a job. And no matter what I do as a prosecutor to put them away, at some point, we've got to start looking at what is the alternative.
The board voted to require the cities to change their policies. From downtown Los Angeles, Warren Wilson, Channel 5 News at 10.
Downtown LA, gang members attended today's LA County Board of Supervisors meeting to ask for help that they say is long overdue. Political reporter John Schwada has a story.
You, my Lord, would help us, my God, this day. Give us favor, Lord.
Gang members pray for success in a war not against youthful rivals, but government officials. The battlefield, the Board of Supervisors, not a street corner. The weapons are not guns, but testimony, some of it passionate.
If you really look at these men, what they're saying to you is, we want a job.
Some 200 gang members and their advocates go before the LA County Board of Supervisors to urge them finally to make good on a long overdue promise. Specifically, to provide significant numbers of jobs for youth, including those at risk of joining gangs. Jobs working on rec and park projects, financed with so-called Proposition A bond money. The reality, only a handful of jobs actually available. Also before the board, representatives of various cities who get Prop A money, ganging up to complain they can't meet the youth hiring goal first proposed by the county. That original goal would involve spending $75 million in Prop A money on youth jobs over the next 22 years. Led by Yvonne Burke, the supervisors vote 4-0 to approve a compromise that lowers the youth job spending goal to $65 million. Still, at day's end, advocates for at-risk youth are pleased with tens of millions of bucks instead of the tens of thousands now being spent. Is it enough?
No, it's nowhere near enough, but it is a first step. We still have to get the money tied to the at-risk youth.
Well, there's no such thing as a silver bullet here in terms of handling the issue of crime in our city. But this is as close as we're ever going to get to a silver bullet.
In Los Angeles, John Schwada, Fox 11.
Pause that video. Put the pause on the video, please. All right, brother, basic is something. Basic principles is one, empower peacemakers and their constituents, build on our strengths by contracting with one another to cover our weaknesses. 3, practice cooperative economics. 4, local development, hire local. The basic mission is to maximize the number of disadvantaged, disenfranchised youth and adults who all earn gainful employment. The basic goal is to create safe communities by breaking the cycle of repeat criminal and of gang violence. How? By addressing the spiritual, social, and economic issues. The basic purpose is to sustain and maintain a continuum of career, living wage jobs, and high-risk youth adults. Basic philosophy is that through jobs and education and no academic and personal life skills development, the cycle of repeat offenders and gang violence can be broken and quality of life. We have a basic core people that have. The committee leaders are Brad Carson, Father Greg Boyle, Carlos Vasquez, Ricky Rodriguez, Dennis Arguelles, John Pollard, Beverly Blake, Steve Blair, Darren Bo Taylor, Hector Monaco, Twilight Day, Tim Brown, Ed Hurley, and Akilah Terrell. A basic compliment. We are the first to bring the peacemakers together. We have achieved the youth employment minimum goal. Appointment on a public works project called Proposition A, Act, which was at that time 45 million, so we actually spent 54 million. creating an environment conducive for our individuals to maintain opportunity. Our basic target industry is an industry targeted for employment opportunities is the construction building trade, which includes public works projects and housing development. Our basic program components: 1. Paid on-the-job training. 2. Education, meaning academic. 3. Personal life skills development, spiritually, socially, and economically. Our basic methodology: 1. Somebody's got to do the opportunity selection. 2. Assessment. 3. Orientation. 4. Case management. 5. Life skills development. 6. Education. 7. Paid on-the-job training. 8. Job supervision, job retention, job placement, and job retention services. 9. Teach one, so that we can reach one. If you want to get in contact with Reverend David Reed. So with that said, at this point in time, if we can go to the cross. Can everybody see that cross? And for the audience out there,
yep.
Get a piece of paper out and make a cross. So at the cross, based on your core value, your core belief system, but I'm gonna speak from my core belief system, which is I'm a Christian. I believe that Jesus of Nazareth, called the Christ, is Jesus Christ, the Son of God, that died for my sins on the cross and redeemed me from the works of the flesh and from poverty, sickness, and disease, and the dominion of Satan here on earth. Reconciling me back to God the Father and God the Holy Spirit. So with that said, my core belief system then leads to a core value system, which then leads to a code of ethics and a code of conduct, which leads me to my standards. And with that, I have standard operating guidelines, SOGs, and a standard operating procedures and policies and protocols, SOPs, all based on the cross from a biblical theological point of view, a kingdom theology point of view, a systematic theology point of view, as well as a Black liberation theology point of view. It all depends on who I'm talking to at the time. With that said, based on the 2 videos that you have seen and heard and have read, you have what spiritual things did you see and hear? What social things did you see and hear? What economic things did you see and hear? And what political things did you see and hear? Those are all questions opening up to the audience.
For that presentation and those videos, I would like just to start off with political, and then we open up. And I think once they went over, was going down on that, on the video or the different mission statements, and you were talking about Proposition A, and I think at the end it answered my question. It said $45 million were already allocated, but I think on a video, if you can clarify for me, it said they were already allocated, but also given to different job industries for the purpose of hiring at-risk individuals, but had not been used quite of yet. Is that what it was saying? That's the question that I have.
Yes. So Proposition A was a $1.6 billion bond approved by the taxpayers of Los Angeles County to improve all the parks in the 88 county cities that are in the county, plus the unincorporated county, plus the Santa Monica Mountain Conservatory. 5 years later, well, in that proposition, it stated that to the maximum extent practical, hire the local at-risk youth in the development or restoration of that project. After $200 million was actually spent and $500 million was actually allocated to be spent, there was essentially 0% of that money spent on at-risk youth. And that's why we showed up to the County Board of Supervisors with 200 licensed to operate on the street level, highly influential gang members, both Crips, Bloods, Mexicans with a 13 behind their name, if you know what that means, and non-affiliated gangs like 18th Street, supported by 50 nonprofits, several community faith-based organizations, and a major $7 billion developer called Playa Vista. And we obtained 50% of the maintenance money, which was 7.5% of the overall development cost, or 10% of the development cost, whichever was less. That ended up turned out to be actually $54 million paid to in the form of wages to 21,000 at-risk youth that worked over 2 million hours. And that was reported back to the County Board of Supervisors July the 17th, 2008. So that was the end result of that. And so ultimately, that was the outcome politically, that we created local target worker hiring for our target population.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that clarification. I have more questions, but I'd like to open up the floor to others out there in the audience that have some questions and to ask you. The floor is open. I think he was going to give a little presentation of the cross on that.
Oh, you want to continue with that?
Yeah, I want to see that. Yeah, I'm going to see that.
But my question, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
My question is, it seems, so you're saying job training and so on, you're saying that system doesn't work, that there's a grade school and a high school for education and training to be able to go in to get jobs, but that system doesn't work, so you're replacing it with job training with this, for these young adults. Is that what behind this?
Yes, you can say that.
So how do
being a probation officer of in LA County, first let's start off with LA County. LA County is one of the largest counties in United States. It's approximately population is about 10 million. And the gross national product, if it was its own country, would be around the 16th largest country as far as economics is in the world would be. As far as the geographical area and the population, if it was a state in the United States, it would be like a 41st. It's larger than 40 states. In the United States, including Nevada. LA County Probation is the largest probation department in the world, that's connected to the largest jail system in the world, that's connected to the largest prison system in the world. And in my opinion, LA County Probation is the hub of our criminal justice system in LA County. That means everybody else are spokes. With that said, if we change the county's policies, we can change the entire criminal justice system. And I'm going to get to that education piece that you just asked about in a minute as I describe our basic premise of what works is that jobs create peace. That's the basic premise in the framework of the cross, in the logic model of what works towards the solution of the problem. Let me define what a job is so that there's no misunderstanding. A job is a legitimate, moral, ethical, and sustainable forms of income. And what I mean by sustainable, that means it sustains myself, my wife, my 3 kids called a family. That is my definition of jobs that create peace. And by that definition, if that's the basic premise, and if that basic premise in the logic model is true, then the opposite is just as true. No jobs is equal to no peace. And since my definition of a job is legit, no job would be illegit. The opposite of moral is immoral and unmoral. The opposite of ethical is unethical. And the opposite of sustainable is unsustainable. Forms of income, meaning money, our economy. And so what we have to do in order to create peace is we have to move this side of no jobs, illegitimate, unmoral, unethical, and unsustainable forms of income over to the right, to legitimate, moral, ethical, and sustainable forms of income. Do we have any questions on that?
Thank you. Any other questions?
Well, I'm still getting a question about the original system of education, grade school, high school, and community college is not working. So you're replacing it with this job training program. How can we get back? How can we make that original system work for these young men?
Well, I'm glad you stated that. So I'm not actually replacing it. I'm a reformer. There's 2 types of people from a biblical point of view. Let's use Jesus Christ. So when Jesus Christ, Jesus of Nazareth, called to Christ, when Jesus Christ came here the first time, he was a reformer. But when he comes back the second time, he's a revolutionist. A reformer, in my mind, is a person that's willing to die for what they believe in order to change our system. A revolutionist is a person that's willing to kill for what they believe in order to change the system. But that's it. I take everything to the cross. At the cross, I'm going to ask and answer from a biblical interpretation of theology and from my 35 years of being a probation officer, what happens to a community when jobs disappears from that community? I'm leaving that question to you all. And I'm gonna put that in the biblical framework. What happens to the community when there's a famine in the land? Let me say that again. What happens to the community when jobs disappears from that community? Let me expound on that same concept. What happens to any community when jobs disappears from that community? What happens to your community when jobs disappears from your community? What happens to my community when jobs disappears from my community? And what happens to our community when jobs disappears from our community? And let's go ahead and answer those questions. What happens to the unemployment rate when jobs disappears from the community?
Goes up.
Goes
way up.
Goes up. What happens to the uneducation rate called the high school dropout rate? For practical purposes, when jobs disappears from the community.
There, I don't get the connection. Sorry.
Goes up. Education rates. Also.
What happens to the poverty and welfare rate when jobs disappears from the community?
That goes up, sure.
What happens to the crime rate? when
Goes
jobs
up.
disappear?
And that goes up, sure.
So these four socioeconomic factors, unemployment, uneducation, poverty, and crime, they all are affected by when jobs disappear.
I still don't see how the education is affected. Kids going through elementary school and high school, getting the skills that they need to get the jobs when they graduate from high school and go to a training, some kind of carpentry training program or something.
I'm gonna get there, hold on. So with these four socioeconomic factors, let's correlate them. Is unemployment related to crime? That's a yes or a no. Are you there?
Yes.
It's correlated, but it may not cause.
Is crime correlated to poverty?
Yes.
For sure.
Is poverty correlated to uneducation?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Uneducation related to or correlated to unemployment?
Absolutely.
What does that look like to you?
Vicious cycle.
A vicious cycle. Is unemployment correlated to poverty?
Yes.
Is poverty correlated to unemployment?
Yes.
Is crime correlated to uneducation?
Yes.
Not necessarily.
Is uneducation related to crime?
Not necessarily.
I'm not here to argue.
Okay,
unequivocally, uneducation, high school dropouts is related to crime. In fact, it's so much related to crime that we can predict how many people are going to go to prison based on third grade test scores, particularly in reading and math.
I think there's a different paradigm when he's going into education, but there's more explanation to education. And that is the poor educational systems that are in these at-risk communities. And that's already documented, you know. And because a lot of that poor educational system comes from attitudes. Where's attitudes stem from, you know? And so, you know, why are these kids not dropping? You know, I can give you stats and I can give you something to read on that. A lot of the teachers that go into these educational systems already have preconceived ideas of these young people and don't really invest in those young people as they need. And then they have other extenuating circumstances because of the environment they come from. Many times they come from this poverty environment that is not conducive of promoting education anyway. You know, so they come from environments, the family breakdown and everything else that comes in. And so when the teachers come in, they're already looking at them for poverty-stricken young people. So there is some education there is a correlation there, but I think it just needs to be expanded and explained just a little bit more. But there is a substantial correlation, and it's documented through a lot of research written by a lot of social workers and other people out there. So I just wanted to declare that.
So as far as the Pygmalion effect of the attitude of the teachers to their students, that's called the Pygmalion effect.
Okay.
With that said, these four socioeconomic and conditions in life are all correlated, and where they intersect is right here, right here, right there. I call that ground zero. And I've been in pretty much every community of ground zero in Los Angeles County. With that said, ground zero typically is where these four socioeconomic factors converge on one spot. Typically, as a baseline, we draw a circumference around that. That would be your community, and that community at ground zero is typically 8 blocks this way and 8 blocks that way. With that said, those 8 blocks typically, from my experience as being a high-risk repeat criminal offender adult probation supervisor, over 50% of my high-risk repeat criminal offenders come from 8 blocks this way and 8 blocks that way. Physically, the closer you are to ground zero, the higher the unemployment rate, the higher the high school dropout rate, the higher the poverty and welfare rate, and the higher the crime rate. Physically, the farther away you are from ground zero, the lower the unemployment rate, the lower the high school dropout rate, the lower the poverty rate, the lower the crime rate is. And what the real estate industry calls that is location, location, location.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we want to add and find out, now that we found out what community that is affected by these four socioeconomic conditions and factors, let's add 3 more variables to find out the population within that community. Just by adding age, race, and gender. Guess what the age, race, and gender is in that targeted ground zero population is? Anybody want to take a guess?
Oh, age probably between age 12, 11, and 21.
And race?
People of
Latino,
color.
Africans. Go ahead.
And gender?
Men.
Men, more males.
All right. The age is, you're absolutely right. The age is young, the race is black, and the genders are male. When our criminal justice system pulls or extracts out the young black males out of that community, and where are they going? Jails and prisons. And the ones that didn't make it to jails and prisons, they're going to the grave, the cemetery, because they're dead. When that reaches a tipping point, then who replaces a young black man? Well, young Hispanic men. They're extracted out of that community, going to jails and prisons and the grave. Who replaces them? Young black females. They're extracted out, going to jails and prisons. And who replaces them? Young Hispanic females. By that time, the original young black males that are in prison and jails come back to that same environment, and the cycle repeats itself over and over again for generations. And now we have generations of people that have been unemployed, generations of people that have been high school dropouts, generational people on poverty welfare, and generational people in crime. You got any questions or comments on that?
Okay, EJ, we have a few more minutes.
I'm still trying to get an answer, or I understand what Dr. Oliver explained.
Yeah, just Actually, to go over this again is just fascinating and very enlightening. Just as we're coming to any close, anybody like to share their thoughts?
It was good then and it's better now.
My words.
Yeah, because it gives you an opportunity to get that second look, that second glance. It gives you an opportunity to survey um, everything that he said then and how it applies now. You know, he said they call themselves peacemakers, and that is our heart in this program is to be peacemakers. He talked about, they gave stats how the violence had went down and how the gangs were coming together and how they wanted to actually be a part of. And that's what I always say. It's amazing if you can get the community as part as the decision making process. So that's what they did. And I think that was one of the giftings of things being successful. I heard the I don't want to call it the debate, but the discussion of how one component affects the other. We are with Maslow's hierarchy. There are just the basic things we need for just basic living. Food, shelter, water, clothing, support. Just those 5 things from Maslow's hierarchy. But when you look at one, if there's no employment, there's automatically going to be a rise in crime. If there's no education, there's automatically going to be a rise in crime. And when I talk about education, I'm not necessarily talking about a school system. You know what I mean? There's street education. You have people that's wealthy, that's rich, that has very little formal education, but the education has to be there. We have to be able to learn and grow and use our experiences as stepping stones to help us get to another level. So I totally agree and concur with that. I think someone said it was a vicious cycle. You know what I mean? And that's when things kind of spin out of control. So yes, when we neglect one field, all fields could possibly have a domino effect and spin out of control. But the work that he does is just insurmountable. So thanks, Reverend Oliver, for sharing that with us again. Thank you. You're muted, sir.
Arcadio, thank you again. Thank you for that. That was really rich.
God bless.
Yeah. Arcadio, we can't hear you. Yeah, I saw the mute button go off, but we still can't hear you. I think he had that before. So
James Parker got his hand up. Can we go to James Parker until Arcadio can figure it out?
Sure. Go ahead, James. Well, Arcadio is figuring it out. James Parker, am I?
I guess he got to figure it out too.
Something's going on. What the heck is going on? All right.
Hey.
Oh man.
Hear you.
Yeah. I just started understanding that, we have lost our love for one another. Yes, there's so much we can do. We can, if we are more community oriented, to become family oriented, to find out how is your neighbor doing, which is one thing Christ said. He said, love your neighbor as you love yourself. If you don't know what your neighbor's going through, if you can't see the pattern change, or you can't see, or to hear that somebody don't have a job, how can we band together in the community to where we can kind of help in those areas? The church was really called, when they took tithes and offering, was to make sure people who were without had. And suddenly that has changed to where we're not even concerned about what people don't have anymore. It's not a thing of, when you gather everybody together, asking, is everybody okay? If you are not all right, please contact us. If you don't feel like coming up here now, or you're embarrassed at this time, I think we got to do a better way of outreaching, and not just think of what the government can do, but what can we do? What can we do as a community? I was yesterday, I received a call from an organization that for community outreach, and the guy contacted me and asked, am I still interested in wanting a urgent care put in our community, a 24-hour urgent care? And I said, yes. He says, yes, we remember that every time you come to the meeting, that's one of the things that you said the community's missing. So when he comes back from his vacation, we're going to sit down and revisit that. And he wants to start allocating funds for that. I just think we need to speak more up in our community. We need to be more connected. I find that a lot of new people that come to our thing say, wow, I lived here all my life and I never heard of this place. Just do a better job of just letting people know that what's going on, what we have, what we can give, so that they don't revert to crime, that they don't revert to these things that can cause all of this. Because most of the time people are just hungry, or, whatever, or trying to see who got too much to help somebody who got too little. How can we shift that and move it? And if you're okay. And, so, yeah, I think this is very interesting. And, but yeah, I think we need to get back to loving the community.
Yeah. And Parker, the services that Rose Hill offer, what you guys offer is just insurmountable. The one thing, the one component I'm going to touch on is, and this might be in everybody's state or city, where the family member could actually take care of an elderly person. Part of James Ministry, they have that component where they offer training to the family members, to be able to take care of someone, elderly person, or someone that's not able to take care of themselves. And I think that is so awesome, because it's hard for a person to work and take care of a loved one. You know what I mean? But if you can be there with that loved one and take care of that loved one and be paid for doing so, I don't think it takes away the compassion or the level of integrity, because you're being paid to do such.
Yeah.
Sometimes people just don't have the physical wherewithal to do both. And as you know, there's so many things that goes on inside Rosegate. You have so many different components. But I just wanted to touch on that because Brother Brad mentioned, how the unemployment drives crime, how the unemployment really affects the community at large. So I just wanted to touch on that piece.
Amen.
Arcadio, did you get in? Any sound? Yeah, still can't hear him. While you're working on it, I would like to, okay. He wanted to expand on the jobs, and everything. Arcadia has a great testimony himself. Well, actually, Dr. Madeline, as we know, Brad and they work with us and come to our conference. It sure was good to see him nice and young, right?
Yes. Yes.
He was looking good, looked nice and young. But when I was looking at that era, it also takes you back. There was the eras, you know, that was like the 90s or 80s or something.
I think the late 90s, early 80s. I think it was in there somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere along, right?
Yeah.
So that that was an era, and I felt like when I was looking at it, that was almost like a reconstruction time, like America's reconstruction time. If we would have really mastered and harnessed the best practices then, will we be where we are now?
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
That's what I was
So
looking
that program was life-changing for so many people for so many reasons.
Uh-huh. I'm so sorry. My daughter called from school. Could you wait? Sorry.
Daddy duty. That's your primary function. Yes.
Yeah. So yes, so I thought that was it took me back and I realized there was some great stuff there and he did some great stuff as well. Those numbers that he was sharing with us, astronomical figures, and not even a tenth of that was going through where it was supposed to go through. He was talking about billions. And
Yeah.
it turned out to be what 65 million and then went down to 45 million. And that's why he said it's not even enough, but at least it's a start. So we're so grateful. Arcadio, if you could.
Yes.
We got him. Go ahead.
Yeah, all I wanted to say was I was so impressed the first time and again, and my question still is the same, like what I asked back then. How can we expand jobs for peace into other cities? I know that they passed that Prop A in LA, but man, it would be great if we could get that because that I can see how it really works. Getting the whole cycle of unemployment and poverty and violence, how it's all connected. I mean, it would be great to see Mr. Carson's program moving into other areas like San Bernardino, places in Riverside County. So, maybe at the next conference we can talk more about that. That would be great.
Absolutely. We got it.
Yeah.
That's I'm so happy he's on our team, our best practices team. Thank you so much, Arcadio. Good to hear from you. James, always, and everybody else, God bless you. We will talk again. Dr. Madeline, always.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you so
God bless.
much.
We'll see you next week.
God bless. Take
Okay.
care. Stay
God
safe.
bless you guys.
James Parker, get up out of there.